Welcome. Each week I go through the reports from around the world looking at interesting events about climate and weather. And this video is a summary of that research for the week ending the 15th of March. However, there have not been that many reports this week because most people are dealing with the coronavirus, and some part of this report will be about that as well. The big climate news this month was the fact that NOAA issued its February of 2020 Global Climate Report. This is a map showing the departure from average temperature for the globe, and you can see that places like Alaska and northern Canada were cooler than average, whereas Russia and Western Europe were much warmer than average. Now, this doesn't tell us whether any of these temperatures were records. To do that, you have to look at a different sort of map called a percentiles map. And that is this map. Here, dark blue indicates record cold. And you can see there is nowhere on the planet that registered record cold over these areas. There were a few pixels that registered much cooler than average. But when you compare that with the number of pixels that were much warmer than average, that's the light red, then you can see that there was a distinct excess of much warmer than average. And then you look at record warmest, which is the dark red, and there's nearly 100 pixels across this map that registered a record warm. And hence this is why February was the second warmest February on record. Now, it was second to 2016, which was the record El Nino year. And at the moment, if you look just off the western coast of South America, you can see we have a mixture of neutral and slightly warmer than average temperatures, which means that we are not in an El Nino or La Nina, which is now called ENSO neutral. So we shouldn't be getting these record temperatures, yet we are. Because this is February, we have the overall winter statistics. And so how does this map look like for winter of 2019-2020? Here it is. It looks very similar to the last map, with record warmth over Russia and Eastern Europe, Japan, China, Australia, the Southern Atlantic, and the Western Pacific. Anyway, so February of 2020 and the winter of 2019 and 2020 were both the second warmest on record. And given the El Nino La Nina situation, that shouldn't be happening. We're in the middle of March, and wildfires are not usually something that hits the headlines at this time, but we've had a couple in the United States in the last week. There was a wildfire in New York where literally a mountain caught fire. Warm, dry weather with low humidity caused a high fire danger risk. When the fire took hold, it destroyed several cars in a parking lot. The mountain is famous for its hiking, and a large number of hikers were trapped on the mountain and they had to flee the flames. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. The second wildfire was in Oklahoma. Again, high winds and low humidity led to high fire danger risk. When the fire took hold, over 30,000 acres were burned and several homes were destroyed. But again, fortunately, nobody was hurt. There is some impressive video of a massive avalanche from northern India. This occurred near a village called Morang. And fortunately, it was far enough away that nobody was hurt. The number of US tornadoes continues to mount. So far this year, we've had 133 tornadoes, which is well above average, which is shown here by the green line. This is very similar to the pace that we had last year. Now let's discuss the coronavirus. This is a map of the spread of the coronavirus around the world. We now have 138 countries with confirmed coronavirus cases. That's an increase of 38 countries over last week. So about 3/4 of the world's countries now have a recorded case. Totally, we have 157,849 cases. That's an increase of 44% over last week. The good news is that 75,994 people have recovered. That's an increase of 33% over last week. Unfortunately, we have 5,841 deaths, which is an increase of 54%, which means the death rate is increasing faster than the recovery rate. If you ratio those two, that says the lethality of this particular disease is 7.7%, compared with the seasonal flu, which is about 0.1%. So this is nearly 80 times more deadly than the seasonal flu, particularly to older people. On several of the main countries, I've put the number of cases that they have registered, and in square brackets after them, the increase over the previous week. And you can see that China, Japan, and South Korea seem to be getting this outbreak under control. Whereas Australia, Iran, Germany, France, the UK, and Canada are rising up the rates very quickly, and it seems that Spain and the United States are out of control. Now, the United States may have an unusual situation here because it hasn't been testing very many people up to this point, and as the number of tests increase, the number of cases will increase proportionately, and so that 536% increase in the number of cases in the last week is probably disproportionate. I keep on hearing on various channels on YouTube that there's been no sign of solar cycle 25. That is completely untrue. So far in the last year, we've had 16 new cycle regions, most of which have been in the southern hemisphere. And this last week, we just had another one. It's shown here in the southeast quadrant of the sun. It produced sunspots for a few days and then slowly dissipated. But nonetheless, it was a new cycle region. You can tell this because it's in the southern hemisphere and negative polarity is leading and positive polarity is following. So the new cycle is starting. It is producing sunspot regions, and the longevity and number of these regions is increasing with time, whereas the number and longevity of the old cycle regions is decreasing with time, which shows that we're in the perfectly normal transition between two solar cycles, solar cycle 24 and solar cycle 25. So there's no indication that we're going into a grand solar minimum and that we won't have any sunspots for solar cycle 25. So that's it for this week. Please stay safe, and until next time, goodbye.